Morning, Sharon Lutheran Church and all who are tuning in. My name is Pastor Dominique, and I will be joining you on Mondays for our community connection time. And I plan to use this time as an opportunity to share either a book or a resource or some practices that we could use during this time when our schedules look a little different and feel a little different. Just kind of a way to focus our minds on perhaps a spiritual practice or something that would be healthy for our mental health. And I want to start by sharing with you a psalm. And this psalm was actually shared with me earlier this week by a colleague, and it brought some peace to me. So I want to share it with you as well. This is Psalm 131, and it's labeled A Song of Quiet Trust. O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things that are too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child with its mother. My soul is like the weaned child that is with me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time on forevermore. And what I love about this psalm is that the person who wrote it admits that in the midst of whatever they're going through, they feel like a weaned child or like a toddler, in other words, right? So they have this wide range of emotions. They probably are sweating the small stuff, but they're also really aware of what's outside of their control. And for all of us, we're having to kind of come to terms with that. The things that are outside of our control right now and the changes within our rhythm and our schedule and our relationships, even, and how connected we feel with one another, especially for those of us who are used to being present with lots of people together. And so that's something I appreciate about this is his or her admitting that they're experiencing a wide range of emotions and feeling perhaps the way a toddler can feel sometimes. And I live with a toddler, so I can tell you that they do sweat the small stuff and they do really embrace the reality that in order to get through those wide range of emotions, we have to do just that. We have to get through them and go through them and really experience them in order to get to the other side. But the other things that toddlers do well is that they celebrate the small stuff too, right? If you've ever brought a toddler's favorite food to them or offered them a treat, you may have seen them jump up and down with excitement. Or when a toddler sees somebody they know or somebody they love, they don't just wave or give a hug, they will all out run to that person, right? And show a lot of excitement. For our little one, it's milk. When she gets milk, she has a whole milk song and dance she does over it. She definitely can sweat the small stuff, but she also really celebrates the small stuff and embraces that as well. And perhaps as you adjust to this new reality for the next few weeks or however long it takes for us to be physically safe, we'll spend some time thinking about our mental well-being as well. So wherever you find yourself on kind of that spectrum of grief as we adjust, whether it's some denial or anger or bargaining or even some depression or sadness, and moments of acceptance as well, and maybe even eventually long stretches of acceptance. Wherever you're at, know that you are held by God and not alone in the midst of all of that. You're held by God like a loving mother comforts their toddler. And so we're going to go together through a couple of ways that we can start to celebrate the small stuff in the midst of whatever you're facing these weeks. And this really matters for our mental health because the more we focus on gratitude, that actually starts to shift some things in our minds and helps us to notice that and focus on that more and more. It becomes easier over time and has an impact on our well-beings. There's some wisdom to that saying that what you seek, you shall find, right? Like I think of when we got a dog for the first time, for example, we got a golden doodle. And after getting a golden doodle, his name is Oakley, we noticed golden doodles all over Grand Forks. And that's not because a bunch of other people got them at the same time. They may have, but it's because we were on the lookout for them. They were on the front of our mind. And so we started to notice them more. Or when we got a different car, we started to notice all of the cars of the same brand around us. And it's not because there was all of a sudden more cars that were like ours. It's because that vehicle was on the front of our mind because we were looking for it when we leave the grocery store and things like that. So we started to notice them more. And so these are some ways that we can practice celebrating the small stuff, the moments of grace that are in our day at the front of our minds so that gratitude becomes something that is showing up more and more often and is good for our minds and for our souls while we're physically distancing from one another. So one resource for you if you're a reader is a book all about this, actually, called Small Victories. And the subtitle is Spotting Improbable Moments of Grace. And this is by Anne Lamott. She has a number of really great books. And I would describe her writing style as real and funny, a little snarky maybe. She's just very honest and willing to talk about the valleys and the mountains of life and where she finds faith and grace in the midst of that. And so she was not facing a pandemic when she wrote this book, but she was facing other ups and downs of life, the death of loved ones, the challenges of parenting, all of those sorts of experiences, and names really beautifully the ways that she found small victories through those challenges and the ways that she was able to spot unexpected moments of grace. And that is what grace is, right? It's unexpected, it's undeserved, it doesn't follow the rules. So even when we are in the midst of grief or challenge, grace still shows up and brings with it moments of comfort and hope and even joy and laughter and peace. And so reading through her stories would be a helpful way to start to notice them in your own life as well, or just starting to write them down. If you're not a journaler, maybe just stick a sheet of paper with a magnet to your fridge and start to write down the small victories for your day. Maybe it's that you started spring cleaning, right? It could be a personal victory, or you could write down a moment of grace. And maybe it was just that you opened the window and there was sunshine, and a moment of spring brought some healing and some grace and some peace to your day, or at least to that hour or that 5 minutes. And start to practice writing those down and noticing those. And I'll invite all of you to comment on this post with a small victory or a moment of grace from the past week as well. And you can continue to do that throughout the week. You can continue to post, but at least for right now, let's take a minute and celebrate with one another those small victories. And I'll share mine out loud now, and then I'll post it in the comments too. But one of my small victories, and it feels like a big victory actually in the midst of all of this, is that I've had time outside almost every day the past week. And that has meant time with my immediate family and time in nature and time connecting to God and time of peace that likely wouldn't have been there with the same sort of rhythm and schedule that we typically have. Things like our toddler noticing a ladybug for the first time and us actually taking the time to sit down and watch the ladybug. Also a spider. That one wasn't my favorite, but she did love watching the spider. And then another victory today is Facebook Live working, or at least so far it looks like it's working, and a chance to connect with all of you, with the broader community in a way that we're all longing for. So thank you so much for joining in this conversation. Blessings to you as you look for your small victories. Know that you are held in prayer and that you are held by our loving God. And we look forward to hearing all of your small victories and your moments of grace. Peace to you.